You hear this from like every agency, but being like a real long-term partner for growth is something that we really favor. Like, I would take the same 5 brands and work together for 5 years than like a new, like 10 new brands every 3 months and just constantly be in that cycle. I think we're able to set out like a bigger roadmap of what we want to achieve and how we get there. And we're able to sort of like deliver a lot more growth at a profitable rate over a longer period of time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ecom Life with me, Phil Kiel. It's been a couple of weeks since I last posted. I'm sure you can appreciate how busy we've been this time of year. We've just completed Black Friday, so if you've been managing ads during Black Friday, Cyber Monday week, or it's not really a week anymore, it's pretty much the full month of November, congratulations, you have survived. And I'm hoping that you can take a rest very soon, potentially when shipping and postage comes to an end somewhere in the middle of December. So yeah, hopefully you were able to hit your targets or even exceed them, whether you are running ads for yourself or on behalf of a client. Would love to hear, on Twitter or LinkedIn, drop me a message and let me know how you got on during this period. Our general trend for Black Friday was performance was very strong. The majority of our brands exceeded their targets, and I'll put out another episode where we dig into why I think that happened. But yeah, general trend is we found that there are customers out there waiting, signing up for emails, and when you activate that offer and campaign on an email, then there are customers waiting. It just takes, unfortunately, an offer to get them across the line. So yeah, definitely found that purchase intent and that interest to buy the products was out there. So ecom, very confident about ecom going into next year, because I'm confident that during this year, which has been seeing a number of world changing events, that consumers are still investing in quality products from quality brands. So yeah, very happy overall about performance during Black Friday. Very, very happy about the team and how they behaved and how they scaled into accounts when the opportunity was there, and took full responsibility for the client's budgets. So yes, overall it has been a good month. So yeah, today's podcast is an interview or an informal chat with my friend Josh Hedges. Now, me and Josh go well back, all the way back to the days of Cat Howl and FATC. If you've heard of that was a media buying Facebook group from a number of years ago. The sort of thing where we communicate in Facebook groups about CBO versus AVO, lowest cost versus cost cap, all the different tricks of the trade that worked really well a couple of years ago. So yeah, me and Josh became friends during FATC a couple of years ago, and ever since then Josh has been building his agency. And a couple of years ago, actually, Josh moved his agency service solely into providing performance creative for specifically planet friendly brands. So he's a man after our own heart, which is why I really wanted to get Josh on the podcast. So we talk about a number of things: what it's been like growing his agency, the recommendations that he's got for other people from that, team management, new biz, but then also what he sees working best from a creative point of view for his clients. So yeah, it was a great call. Looking forward to putting out more episodes like this in the coming weeks. So yeah, please enjoy.
Hey Phil.
Josh, there he is. How are you?
Yeah, good mate. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Good.
Nice to speak to a Brit for once.
Yes, a fellow Northerner as well.
There it is, north of Watford Gap.
Yeah, that constitutes as the true North, right?
Yeah, true North. That's the one. Yeah. Stupid dog. Come on. Sorry, the dog's coming in. How's this week treating you?
It's good, but horrendously busy is the description I would use. You'll know the same as yourselves. It's just that season. It is literally like high volume stuff out the door constantly, which is good, but yeah, a little bit straining.
Was there a point when that just like dialed up a notch recently?
I I would say like midway through September, we were like, shit, we need to like really start pushing out content now. So the way that we typically work anyway is most of our packages are sort of high volume. But with it being Q4, people wanted like extra hooks. We're testing multiple different angles. There's a whole sort of like gifting aspect that's in there. People are running a lot more kind of like discount-led stuff that they want to keep going alongside their evergreen stuff. So it just means like the volume of stuff we're putting out is just like way more.
Amazing. That's cool. What was August like for you? Because I know, like, us as an agency, we kind of felt the same thing. Like August, like even though we were busy in August, it like the market just felt very different. And then as soon as we entered September, it was just like night and day. Yeah. Did you feel the same?
I feel like the last week in August is probably when things started to sort of like get busy, and then mid-September is when things were like, yeah, definitely. But yeah, August again was like, we were busy, just not this busy, which is good. But yeah, definitely takes its toll.
Are you like, I know from both a current client point of view, August was quiet and then September got busy, but from like a new business point of view, because I think it's good to talk about that sometimes, like new business definitely felt the same. Like August, we couldn't get hold of anyone, no one was really interested. And then September, all of a sudden, we all of a sudden had something that people wanted to buy.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that, to be fair, we're working with the same people we were, probably exactly the same amount of clients. We're just delivering more for them. I think what we did see, so start of September, we saw people looking to extend contracts for like a longer period of time than previously. So in the past, I would say the max that we would work like on a retainer is 3 months and then renew. We're now seeing people look at like 12-month retainers with us, which is mind-blowing. But yeah, so we're going to be busy for the foreseeable. But yeah, no, we definitely saw like an increase of people wanting to keep working with us rather than a flood of new brands coming in.
Amazing. I mean, that just aligns, like, well done, first of all, Josh.
Thank you.
That just aligns with that old tale, like, don't constantly go after new biz, like try and generate more revenue from the current clients that you've got.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's something that I really am trying to put a focus on is you hear this from like every agency, but being like a real long-term partner for growth is something that we really favor. Like I would take the same 5 brands and work together for 5 years than like a new, like 10 new brands every 3 months and just constantly be in that cycle. I think we're able to set out like a bigger roadmap of what we want to achieve and how we get there. And we're able to sort of like deliver a lot more growth at a profitable rate over a longer period of time.
Yeah. Because I suppose if it's both a new brand and also a new client to you, those first few months are like really, really hard work, both for you, the agency, and the brand, isn't it? It's like we're trying to validate the product, and then also you're trying to deliver a strategy, and then there's a lot of push and pull, which makes those first few months on a retainer the hardest, probably.
100%. And when you think about like a new relationship, those initial months are almost like just doing the basic groundwork that hasn't ever been done before. Like you're finding the concepts and the angles that really work. You're finding the reasons why people are buying that product. You sort of like in a discovery phase, whereas anything after that is kind of like really focusing on how do we lower costs? How do we increase sales volume? How do we do all of those things that we want to do? But like you have to get it dialed in first.
Yeah. I know we've got average retention length for like as a client retainer point of view, but I know we need to look into the numbers, but I know that there'll be a point. I imagine it's if we can retain the client for like at least 6 months, then our retention rate after that probably increases dramatically.
Yeah,
but it's almost like those first 3 to 6 months are the most.
It's like the proven period.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I imagine it's both the proven period from a KPI point of view, but then also the client's like mindset that us as a service provider are the right people to go after?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So that's usually how we have been doing it, is like 3 months is sort of like what we would now consider, if you want to try us out, that's the period it takes. And then after that, it's those conversations of it's 6 months or it's 12 months.
Yeah.
And we go in for like the long game.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's good. It makes life easier to navigate when you know what's going on, definitely.
Yeah, I keep using this word emotional for like media buying, but then also running an agency, and that emotion word, it sort of characterizes like both like the lows and the highs. Like you get these like media buying tough lows, amazing highs, but then both as an agency point of view, with like service provider with clients, you get those lows where it's, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The clients found me out. I'm a cowboy. Everyone else is going to find me out. And then a week later, the next day, you get that high of, I can print money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a constant cycle of being like here, then here, then here, then back here, and then up here again. It's difficult. It's like definitely a hard thing to do. And I think with running the agency, the fact that there's no one really above you saying like, this is the path to take, and you just kind of have to like figure it out, I think makes it interesting, but it's definitely tough.
Yeah, I know the path. We've always been looking. We've always like had an idea for the path, but then also been looking at like other paths. Naturally, you're just grass is greener on the other side. But I think where we're trying to put the hard work and the effort into is just reiterating that the path that we're on is the right one.
Yeah.
And I think that just takes time and experience, and almost like experience of like trusting yourself that you definitely are doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think like you said, over time with experience, you sort of know that like no matter how difficult it is, you are doing the right thing. Which is, I guess, it's that's why it's so important to have like the right people around you, the right connections that are sort of helping you frame business in that way.
Yeah, I think I think that we've been through a couple of summers now, and I'm pretty confident now that like August is the worst month of the year, both from like a performance point of view and as like an agency.
Yeah,
because like Q4 is obviously great, like tough and busy, but there's a lot of positives, and then Q1 it's that like new hope. We've got the rest of the year in front of us. You sort of like reset what you want to do. It's like new goals, everything like that. So those 2 quarters are bookended next to each other.
Yeah,
and then August is like right in the middle on either side of those. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. An interesting thing, actually, there's a couple of brands that we work with still who around sort of mid-August probably started to pull back spend in anticipation of just wanting to kind of stockpile a little bit for Q4, which is something I've never really seen before, which was interesting. So I'm interested to see if it's the same next year and people are sort of pulling the reins back a little bit on stuff.
Yeah, I think we've got a brand who has seen that August is generally their worst month of the year, and that paired with like iOS, which was sort of like June last year, and obviously like we were still sort of dealing with that in August, and then this year there was a lot of financial issues like Russia and Ukraine, everything like that in the summer, which is obviously still going on, and I think there's been a couple of years now where like August has just generally been like the worst, because that first 2020 year with lockdown, August was probably like the first month in that year when people were starting to go outside. March, big ecom boom, but then August, it was summer in the UK and everyone could go outside again.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes it's quite easy to like just not even consider outside factors and just like blame yourself completely and be like, what's going on here? But then, like you say, you look at it, there's literally war, cost of living crisis around the world. Like, yeah, there's a ton going on.
Yeah, there's bigger problems than the algorithm.
Yeah, 100%.
So what's beHuman look like? What's your focus as an agency to clients?
So in terms of like the services we deliver.
Yeah, services. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. So we are just 100% creative. We have, since the start of beHuman, we've been pretty much 100% all in on creative. So my background was media buying, like that. I think that's how I know you, is through like DD Pro, FATC world. And then, yeah, creative, I've just found I was able to pull a lot more levers to control the outcomes rather than when I was just media buying. So we're 100% performance creative for sustainable brands, which is, I think that's pretty similar to what you guys do as well with Hello Earth. But yeah, that's us.
Cool. So are you still media buying as an agency, or you're just delivering on the creative? Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, 100%. So 9 times out of 10, the people that we work with have like internal teams who are running all the media buying for them. There's a couple who use other agencies, but typically we're really close with like in-house media buying teams to sort of give them the creative that they need and help them, like guide them a little bit with strategy around what they should be focusing and spend on.
What was it like what was the transition like when you sort of like pulled out the media buying bit?
Yeah, it was pretty like relieving, to be fair. So I stopped media buying right before like the iOS changes happened. So I like to think that I kind of knew what was going to happen in terms of like the whole media buying shitstorm. And to be honest, like I wouldn't say I was the most proficient media buyer anywhere. But yeah, kind of knew that was coming up. Had always done creatives for clients like with media buying. So it was like, yeah, let's get on that train and see where it takes us. I think I want to say that was like 2020. So it was a while ago we did that. But yeah, it was get out of the media buying kitchen before it all burns down was the thinking behind that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I imagine it's probably not that often where like service providers will end the service. I imagine you had clients that you were paying for that service and you sort of dropped it.
Yeah, basically. So a few, not like a ton. We were very like small scale media buying stuff. But yeah, there was definitely a few people who kind of not got left behind, but probably ended up better off without us at that point. But having that kind of insight and background into the sort of the media buying side of stuff made performance creative really easy. Like obviously there's the whole like actually creating stuff aspect of it, but understanding cause and effect of each part of like creative and understanding what each thing is doing and how that reflects in ads manager with KPIs and stuff was surprisingly like easy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you have approached it from the right angle rather than coming at it from a purely visual, like non-performance point of view. Because obviously that is, you are providing performance creative. It's not just creative for creative sake, is it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think like at the time of like launching that as a solo service, I don't think there was a ton of creative agencies, like specifically performance creative. I know that there was like you really big ones, like you had Brand Booster, Well in Media, and like Fraser from Fraggle, who's always been doing mad stuff. But there wasn't like a huge number of agencies where you could go, oh, I need performance creative. That's where I'm going to go. So I think we kind of got into that a little bit early on, but then sort of we've like navigated all of the tough things about performance creative like a few years ago now. So we're in a good place.
Yeah, you got a good head start. What was has the sell got easier over time because clients are coming to you with that understanding that this is what they need?
Definitely. I think like sales was always tricky at first because like it just is for any kind of service. But as we've done more and more and we've worked with kind of more established people, I think our name kind of like speaks for itself now. Like in the UK specifically, we're working with like Packed Coffee, we're working with Wild Deodorant, we're working with like decent kind of big name D2C brands. And I think other D2C brands kind of see that and are like, okay, we want a piece of that.
Yeah. Amazing. I think sometimes we can think that, okay, what do I need to do to make that process easier? And unfortunately, sometimes it's just a case of like time and hard work.
Yeah.
And those two things together have put you in a better position than you were in.
Yeah, definitely. It's just so my friend Joshua Johnston has a saying that's just reps and sets. Like the more you do, the kind of better you are. And I think just having done it for a while now, we're in a place where I think people realize we're good at what we do. I hope.
I mean, well, that's that classic. I mean, maybe it's a bit British, but that's that classic sort of doubt, isn't it? The fact that clients are signing for 6 and 12 months, I think, answers that question.
Yeah, definitely. I think I wouldn't be a true northerner without a little bit of self-doubt in me. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'd be lethal if we had a bit of like American confidence in our services, wouldn't we?
Yeah, killer it. We would absolutely be. We'd clean house, definitely.
Yeah, love that. Maybe one day, maybe give it a couple more years, and you might be that bullish.
Yeah, I think so. Like the Grant Cardone of creative. Yeah.
With the private jet on Hull Airport.
Can you imagine? I think it would be stolen. Like before it landed, it would be gone very quickly.
Yeah. Grand Theft Auto style sort of.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So what's made if we just think about like this, so obviously you just spoke about like 2020, 2021, tough selling in the new service. If you think about this year, what's made where have you leveled up as like a service provider that's made either your job easier or like the performance of the content better?
Cool. Yeah. So I would say like when we first started as beHuman, it was videos that were like, there were good video ads that did well just because they were good. They were engaging. They got like messaging across really well. But as sort of like you see more performance creative people popping up, more like the role of the strategist has like appeared. I would say that we have then doubled down on how do we reduce costs for clients, which is something we'd always looked at, but it had never been like our main focus. It had been like, how do we get more people to buy product? And then something just kind of like switched one day, and it was like, okay, so we can get people to buy more, but how do we get them to buy cheaper? So like it costs the client less, so they just become more profitable. That became like our main focus. I want to say like the start of this year was like really focusing on how do we reduce CPA. And I would say that like that's something we do really well for like most brands is we're really good at lowering costs.
And is obviously you look at like click-through rate and thumb stop rate and all those sort of metrics, but do you use CPA now as your main like performance metric?
Yeah, so we kind of take like a holistic view of like all of those sort of like creative like triggers is probably the wrong word, but like creative insights, and we kind of we gauge what the bigger picture is, but mainly we're looking at is sales volume maintaining or increasing, and is the cost of that going down? Like I'm all for attention metrics, hook rates, hold rates and stuff, but at the end of the day, we want our clients to make more money and spend less. And those two things don't always correlate.
And what's the obviously without giving away all of the secret, what's the one thing that can dramatically change CPA between two videos?
Cool. Yeah. So I think one main thing is probably like overall messaging and how you're delivering that. One of the most overlooked things in creative, I would say, is copy. Like the actual, like the script, the titles that are on screen. I think if you were to run like similar visuals, but change the messaging and have one that's like really dialed in, it really like it's actually in line with what customers or potential customers are thinking, like what they want, what they need, what they're scared of, versus the same visual with a more generic messaging, you're going to see a dramatically lower cost on the one that's like actually dialed in. That's one thing that we would look at. And then I would say hook rates, to be fair, is quite a strong one, because if you can hook people in, like you can get them to watch for longer. But then it comes back to that same thing as if your messaging isn't specific and dialed into the person you're serving it to, you're really going to struggle. Like if you think in a media buying sense, like CPMs are kind of like based around relevance. Like the whole kind of bid in ads is based around like how relevant you are and how much you're bidding. if your ad is not relevant to the person who you are trying to target, it's going to cost you more.
So I know earlier in the call you mentioned like volume is really important. Is that one of the ways that you'll increase that volume by testing the message, keeping like the same number of assets, visuals, but changing messaging?
Yeah, that's one of the ways. So I think having a lot of volume is good in a couple of ways, because one, you can test more things, but then when you find sort of the opportunities to scale up in those sort of like tests, you see something is working really well, but you want to double down on different hooks, different kind of script or voiceovers, whatever it is, you need to have the volume of that there so you can do that pretty quickly.
Cool. That makes sense. It sounds really fun. The process that you've got in place, the type of work that you're putting out, it sounds like you're enjoying it right now.
Yeah, definitely. So far, it's good. It's challenging is what I like. Like no ad account, no brand is like the same. So the kind of the whole process you go through of understanding customers, creating like the different avatars that lie within all the research that you do, I think none of those are that similar across brands, which kind of keeps it fun, because it's like you're discovering new people and new ways to talk to them like constantly. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. What's that? Now we've been involved with a couple of brands where we haven't directly done the media buying, and I found that relationship quite interesting, because obviously we are like media buying is like, you know, our bread and butter for a number of years. So to have that removed and us just to be standing outside looking in, I think personally that feels quite funny. How do you feel about that? You know, when you're watching someone else run the creative that you built.
Sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes you give advice and it's not always sort of like heeded or listened to. But then I think other times, so like for example, Packed Coffee have a really solid media buyer in-house, but they're so open to sort of learn or try new things that there's kind of like a really good relationship there. We can give them this creative and say, why don't you try this? Let's test things in this way. Let's structure things in this way. And they're quite sort of like open to try that out. But at the same time, they have such a high level of expertise where you're not uncomfortable passing off assets to them. You know that they're going to be put in the right place. We've definitely worked with brands where we've done like really good work, and then it's just not had what it needs to like sort of perform really well. But yeah, I would say 9 times out of 10, the people that we work with, they know what they're doing. So it's less stressful for us to just say, okay, you do it.
Yeah, here's the assets, like run with it. Unfortunately, I think sometimes, because it is, even though it is like two businesses working together, at the core of it, it's actually sort of like two people working together. And if those two people don't have like aligned goals, then that's when that friction can start.
100%. That's it. And I think like there's always going to be that kind of thing, because you are, like, as you say, essentially you're two separate businesses. And like obviously brand side, they have limitations on what they can spend. They have limitations on like where they can push things. But yeah, no, so far that relationship has been quite easy. We're yet to discover one that's like really difficult to navigate. I'm sure that will happen at some point though.
Yeah, I know the worst experience we've got, and I know we shouldn't, but I suppose we shouldn't just focus on the negatives, but I don't think we have done that yet, but it's quite interesting, is the worst experience we've had is where like the media buyer, I think was presenting like a little bit experienced. They knew what they were doing, but I think because they were a little bit less experienced, they kind of felt at risk. And we were sort of like looking over their shoulder.
Yeah.
And our goal was to take over the ad account, whereas actually our goal was to just provide some assets.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
If they work, obviously, like you know, maybe we'll get like a 6-month or a 12-month contract. But I think that's where that sort of like disconnect of, maybe we should have been clearer about what our goals were.
Yeah.
And like actually said, you don't need to worry about us taking over the ad account, because that's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's always a little bit of an education piece in there as well, because like most media buyers up until this point that we've come across don't have like loads and loads of experience of testing like hundreds of creatives a month. Like they will usually have like 5 or 6 things that they rotate pretty heavily. They'll change headlines on and they'll push those out. So we've got kind of a good relationship with the in-house people we work with, because we're educating slightly on how to manage that kind of like load of creative. Because it's definitely, if you've not run or you've not tested creative pretty intensely before, it can be a bit daunting if you have something like 70 videos to try and test.
Yeah. Now, what's your recommendation? Like, do you recommend they use dynamic creative testing or not?
You know what? I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it. I haven't, like, I wouldn't say to do that. Just from a personal point of view, I like to be in kind of total control of all of that kind of period where you're testing assets. You're sort of seeing how they're put out there. So yeah, I wouldn't. But that being said, I've not had hands-on sort of like real experience with it for a long time. I think the last time I probably ran a dynamic test of my own was probably like 2 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, the platform's changed this year, let alone...
Yeah.
The platform's changed in the past 3 months, let alone, like, the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, my immediate reaction then when you were talking about, like, you know, a process to test a lot of assets was I thought you were going to say, you know, use DCT, you know, burn through those assets quite quickly, but yeah, maybe that's not right.
Is that something that you do?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on like the account type, like what type of brand it is. Like, is it an asset heavy account, or is it more of like a brand account where the assets are the assets and we just need to make them work? But yeah, if it's like a high asset account where we're, you know, testing hooks and the message can be manipulated a lot more, then yeah, I am in favor of dynamic creative testing. My belief is that, just like everything that's happened with Advantage Plus shopping recently, if you play into what Facebook wants, then they are more likely to favour you with you know, whatever the magic is behind the curtains that they can control.
Yeah, some of that Zuckerberg dust.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, if you play ball, then I mean, rule of thumb is generally we've seen if focusing on efficiency can help you scale.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, you know, 2 years ago, like the last time you were probably heavily into media buying, you know, you could focus on scale first.
Yeah.
And then the performance second. Whereas naturally, and just like the fact that, you know, you're able to, you know, your agency has grown, is you need to focus on performance first and then scale.
Yeah, for sure. So in your like dynamic creative tests, then are you sort of like dynamically testing each angle separately and just switching out like hooks and messaging for each one, or are you doing that all in the same test?
Yeah, so each dynamic creative test would be sort of like one concept or angle. So that could be like the same video with 5 different intros, or it could be, you know, like the same intro across 5 different videos, but and try and control the variables. So just change one piece.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have like 2 different, you know, like an unboxing versus a, you know, a customer review in the same ad set in the same DCT. That would be 2. Yeah.
Got ya. So I think what we're probably doing is like a very inefficient way of doing that, because we're doing the same thing. We're like testing singular concepts, but just cycling through the sort of the different hooks, CTAs, social proof pieces in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're probably doing that in like the most inefficient way possible.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what we found that like the most inefficient part of the ad account is like the human sitting in front of the laptop. Yeah. So if you can improve the efficiency of like the media buyer understanding what's going on, that you know, that's like the biggest like dumb bit of the ad account, and the other bit of it is, you know, we're only partially controlling. Nowadays, it's like we don't have full control of the ad account. You know, we can't control the targeting. We can't control where Facebook puts the spend half the time. So
yeah, for Sure. And I think that is probably like one of the reasons why we do what we do is like controlling spend. I think just not necessarily trying to control where it goes, but make sure that assets have had their fair share of budget to see if we can sort of see performance somewhere else. Because one thing that we do like sort of notice is that what Facebook pushes budget to doesn't always necessarily perform the best. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we. If the ad account is in a good position, we'll definitely let it spend where it wants to spend.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same, on like the flip and the reverse of that is, if the brand and us as an agency is investing in assets, which we should be, then to iterate, to use the data from those assets to go to the next step, they have to receive spend to tell us if this hook is worth investing in or not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So we've talked about some of the improvements you've made this year. What's the bit that either you personally or you as an agency are looking to sort of like improve and level up on, like now going forward?
No, that's a really good question. To be fair, I would say like efficiency, which is kind of ironic based on the last conversation we just had. I think just like really nailing the kind of the process that we have here to try and to be able to grow without it becoming too much of a headache, I think is the thing. Because for me, like building beHuman has very much been like building a plane while trying to fly in it. You just like something pops up and you're like, okay, I'll fix that. Whereas I'm trying to be in a position where everything is sort of systematized, it's process like focused, so that we can come in, work with a new brand, and like get them solid results straight away. There's like as little amount of friction as possible. It's something that I'm trying to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. That like that's where your energy should be focused, as well as delivering on a service.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been trying to do that for like 4 or 5 years, and we've still only really scratched the surface on like locking down those processes, and that is also because those processes change as fast as we write them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like it's funny, like Twitter is a place where I learn a lot about other people's like processes, and it's strange how like quickly all of these separate people come to the same kind of like process without any like outside input from anyone else. They all come to the same place, and like most people's processes is fairly similar. I think trying to keep on top of that and like also differentiate what you do is a thing that I find challenging sometimes, definitely.
Yeah, it's a compromise between writing a process and applying that process to every client that you work with, but then at the same time making sure that every piece of work that you deliver is 1% better than the last piece of work.
Yeah,
and that second thing makes those processes like irrelevant, because if you're constantly improving, which you should be, to make sure that you're 5 miles down the road next year.
Yeah.
That won't happen if you can't break those processes.
Yeah, 100%. Because you're just constantly doing the same thing. It's there is no improvement there.
Yeah.
Which I think is good, to be fair. Like you said, you improve with everything that you do. And I think that's part of the game, is just always finding ways to be more effective and more efficient, but still maintaining that kind of quality output.
Yeah. What's the dream then? Have you got like the you want to build the processes, hire the team, and then check out and just let the agency run on its own?
I don't really know, to be fair. I'm probably too attached to be in that position yet. I don't know. I think I want to focus on giving the kind of team here like everything that they need, make sure that they can operate at the level they want to and need to. I think that I've got my eye on some other projects that I'd like to do, but I think still like, I don't know. I'd like to be at the head of the ship until it makes sense for someone smarter than me to do it.
Yeah, I know. Like we've tried a couple of times to replace me Because obviously I was like, a media buyer, paid media manager, head of paid, and now like managing director, but I'm still kind of doing all those other roles at the same time, just with like more people around us. And a couple of times we've tried to hire to replace me so that I can sort of like zoom out and become, guru managing director who, dips in and out and does all that fun stuff. But it hasn't worked a couple of times, and we've now started to come to the realization that actually, like, the agency, and it's probably a similar position to you, the agency's grown because of the hard work that I do and the hard work that you do, Josh. So why would we sort of substitute you off the pitch?
Yeah.
When there isn't really there's no need to do that. Just so someone else can do the job instead.
Yeah, 100%. And I think creative as well is like specifically creative is hard to kind of replace yourself because each person has their own style of creativity. And I think sometimes a lot of the kind of like big work that we've done has been on the back of like my own willingness to like go the extra step, work ridiculous hours, like strategize for days on end. Whereas I think when you try and take yourself out of that role and bring someone else in, they're not the same person. They don't have those same like styles or beliefs or anything. I think it can be quite tricky. And especially if you're wanting to bring someone in to replace you and do exactly what you do, it's kind of a bit like the impossible game. Like, I can't think that I would ever find someone to do what I do and then just like me disappear. I can't. Yeah.
Odds are that would fail. Because just by the matter of the fact that person is different, so they would do what you're doing differently. But one of the best hires we've made this year is, and we've done it with a couple of people this year, is hiring to fill the gap, not to just hire more of what we already had.
Yeah, for sure. I think like my role has changed quite a bit. Like this year specifically, it's gone from being kind of the one person doing strategy, shooting, editing, delivering, sort of like analysis, all of that, to the point where I'm mainly like doing a little bit of strategy for different brands, but then most of my time now is spent like making sure other people have what they need to do the job that they're doing, which is in itself is kind of nice. Like, just to take a little bit of a step back, but still be in control. Yeah, that's been good.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's happened quite a few times this year when you step back and you see something happen without your input.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, this machine does work if I do step out of something for a minute.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the nicest things recently is our kind of like creative workflow is having input from the people who are actually doing the day-to-day of that. So our kind of production people, our editor, kind of feeding back and going, oh, we kind of tweaked it a bit to be this, and now it's just easier and smoother. And like seeing that happen is really nice. Like our whole sort of like production workflow at the minute has just leveled up by just people being like, oh yeah, we'll just change this. And I've had like zero input in it, and it's been really good. Yeah, it's nice.
Amazing. Yeah. It's I know the feeling. It's like, this is amazing, and part of the reason why it's amazing is because I didn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is good. It's good. And I think that also kind of comes down to like having the right people in place. I think it's quite easy to like hire someone who's not the right fit. They just come in, they do the process that you've given them, and they just like do that without question, as opposed to bringing in like the people who are going to challenge the sort of status quo a little bit and say this could and should be better, which I think is one of the important things about hiring the right people. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if I think back to like my previous years in different jobs, like that's what I was doing was everything can be changed. Nothing is, even if the person above me has said this is the process, it's like that just means that's a challenge. And I'm sure by the matter of fact that you used to be in media buying and you made the decision to drop that, it's like you've got that same personality.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Yeah, I think if everything, like as much as I love systems and processes, I think at the end of the day, we're a creative agency, and creativity bends rules to make things happen. So if we can do that in a more efficient way, brilliant.
Yeah. I know we quite often when we onboard new team members, we're kind of like, like, this is the process, this is where everyone sits. Rip it apart and change it. As long as you can validate that it improves efficiency or whatever, like, don't just take this as gospel.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of people that we want.
Yeah, definitely. I think it kind of lets the team shine a little bit. It lets people come in and not just have the role of like being in charge of production, being in charge of like motion graphics or something. They have like real input into how the business is run, which I think for some people is really valuable to kind of have that input.
Cool. Cheers, Josh. I've really enjoyed that. What about yourself?
Yeah, massively. First podcast down, which is mint.
Yeah, good stuff. Have you got any more lined up?
No, none. None yet. We will have some.
Good stuff. I mean, I'm happy to, but I mean, this getting this one over the line has took maybe like three attempts.
Yeah.
Partly my fault. I mean, it almost got rescheduled today, but I moved it back.
Yeah, I saw something pop up on the invite. I was like, oh no.
Don't do it. Yeah, I was good. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to catch up in November, see how we're going. If you've got 20 minutes in November, I'm sure you'll be busy, but
yeah. I'll let you know how my sanity levels are doing. I might be curled up in a ball somewhere, laid down. Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing about media buying, like December, I think December just goes like really quiet. As soon as you get to like the 10th or the 15th of December, it's, we've done pretty much most, like the last thing that you could do is, like a Christmas Eve sale or like a Boxing Day sale.
Yeah.
Everything else is done. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, to be fair, I'm expecting December to be quieter than most months because we've been shooting like Christmas stuff since June. So like a lot of people already have Q4 assets for Christmas and Boxing Day. I think December for us is going to be looking at like January sales, and kind of into the future. Yeah.
Amazing. Cheers, Josh. I enjoyed that. Speak soon.
Yeah, speak soon, Phil. All right.
Cheers, mate. Bye. Bye. There we have it. Josh Hedges from beHuman Creative. I'll drop Josh's links in the show notes, so please give him a follow on Twitter and LinkedIn. I really enjoyed speaking to Josh. He's come a long way over the past couple of years, and I'm very confident about his future, both from building his agency and also providing return on investment for the clients that he works with. So I'd love to get Josh back on the podcast in a couple of months' time to see where he's up to. Make sure you give me a message on Twitter or LinkedIn if you've enjoyed the show, if you've got any questions, or if you'd like to jump on the show. I'd really enjoy that. Cheers. Speak soon.